ओके जी, कोऑर्डिनेट ज्योमेट्री है। कोऑर्डिनेट ज्योमेट्री is linked to the coordinates on the axis. One is your x-axis, the other one is your y-axis. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Each coordinate will have both x and also y. That means, for suppose if I talk about coordinate A, so this is 3, 2. We are going to write x first and y second. So if I tell you that x is 3 and y is 2 for A. Similarly for B, your x will be 5 and your y will be 4. So B coordinate is 5, 4. So even if the coordinates are not given in x-axis or y-axis, and they are shown in this manner, so you should be knowing, or you should obviously take it down as x3 of the x-axis, y as 2 from the y-axis. Similarly, 5 from the x-axis and 4 from the y-axis. Now, when we start off with coordinate geometry, the first thing in this should be the example of midpoint. Now, midpoint of any two coordinates, that means midpoint of any two coordinates means, for suppose if I say we have 2, 4 and B is 6, 16. So I will always assume this as x1 and y1 because we will have two coordinates. This is x2 and y2. Your midpoint formula is x1 plus x2 upon 2. This will give you the midpoint of x coordinate. y1 plus y2 upon 2. This will give you midpoint of y coordinate, which means that your x1 is 2. Your x1 here is 2. Your y1, x2 here is 6. Your y1 here is 4. Your y2 here is 16. So if I want to write it down in the formula, that means 2 plus 6 upon 2, comma 4 plus 16 upon 2. And this will give you your midpoint eventually. 2 plus 6 is 8. 8 divided by 2 will be 4. 4 plus 16 is 20. 20 divided by 2 is 10. So your midpoint is 4, 10. So this is what we did about midpoint, right? Now, there is another thing that you should be knowing about midpoint is midpoint reversal. Midpoint reversal. Now, what does midpoint reversal mean? Now, in the question, when the examiner will ask you midpoint reversal, that means the question will give you a coordinate. Let's say the question gave you 2, 4, and the question says that midpoint is 4, 10. The question will be clear that the examiner will ask, find the other coordinate. right? Or the question can also be midpoint of A and B is 4, 10. Find B. Because in this question, if you note that A is already there and midpoint is also there. But the examiner will want you to find out the coordinate of B. Now, to be very clear, you should know that midpoint will always come through midpoint formula. x1 plus x2 upon 2, comma y1 plus y2 upon 2. This midpoint x1 plus x2 upon 2. Now, this x1 plus x2 upon 2 will give me the answer as what? 4. Because if we had the coordinates, now we would have actually calculated the midpoint. But now we already have the midpoint, that is 4, 10. Since we already have the midpoint 4, 10, we wrote x1 plus x2 upon 2, which will be equal to what? 4. And y1 plus y2 upon 2 will be equal to what? 10. So we can write down the equation for this. x1 plus x2 upon 2, which is equal to what? 4. And we can also write y1 plus y2 upon 2, which is equal to what? 10. Why did we do that? We did this because we already had the midpoint. Now, we also know that we have the coordinate, which is A, and that is 2, 4. Now, with the respect to the coordinate we have, we can take this as x and we can take it as y. It can be considered as x1 or x2. If we are taking it x1, obviously we'll have x2 being calculated. And if we are taking this as y1, y2 will be calculated. So let's just substitute. This 2 can be substituted in place of what? X. So let's do it. 2 plus x upon 2, which is equal to what? 4. And this 4 should be substituted in place of what? Y. 2 is equal to what? 10. Now you should be knowing that I already have the values. So this would be 2 plus x is equal to what? 8. Because 2 here is being divided, it should be multiplied with 4. And x is equal to 8 minus 2. So x becomes what? 6. Similarly, 4 plus y upon 2 is equal to 10. So this would be 4 plus y is equal to what? 20. So y is equal to 20 minus 4. Y becomes what? 16. So the answer for B should be what? 6, 16, which we already knew that B coordinate was what? 6, 16 here. But we found out using the reversal of the midpoint. So we did coordinate, geometry, midpoint formula, and then we did midpoint reversal. Now let's focus on distance. Now distance is also known as your length. For suppose if I tell you that A is 2, 4, B is 8, 12. So I already know that this is x1, this should be y1, this is x2, this should be y2. Your distance formula is under root y2 minus y1 whole square plus x2 minus x1 whole square. This is your midpoint, or this is your distance formula. Now, using the formula and the coordinates, let's write down 12 minus 4 whole square plus 8 minus 2 whole square. And it will give you what? Under root, because it's there already in the question. Can I say 12 minus 4 becomes what? 8. So this is 8 square plus 8 minus 2 becomes what? 6. and this will come under what? Under root. 8 square is 64 plus 36 under root, which means the answer is under root 100, and under root 100 is what? Plus minus 10. But in this context, we will not be taking negative sign. Why? Because your distance cannot be in negative. The only thing in this you should be remembering is the distance formula. That is under root y2 minus y1 whole square plus x2 minus x1 whole square. Since we already did midpoint reversal distance, now we'll be working on gradient. What is gradient? Gradient actually tells me slope, that, or it tells me incline or decline of line. But basically, what does gradient tell me? Gradient tells me ratio of change in y over change in x. Or I can even use ratio of change in y of change in x, which means that your gradient formula will be y2 minus y1 upon x2 minus x1. And the symbol for gradient is m. Your symbol for midpoint was m dot p. But for the gradient, your symbol will be m. What does it tell me? It gives me what? It gives me the slope, incline, decline, or it tells me the ratio of the change in y of change in x. So if I'd say that A is 2,4 and B is 6,16, knowing the fact this is x1, this should be what? y1. This is x2, then this should be what? y2. If I just substitute the values, m is equal to y2 minus y1, so this would be 16 minus 4 upon x2 minus x1, this should be 6 minus 2. So m will become what? 16 minus 4 is 12, 6 minus 2 is what? 4. M becomes what? 3. So you know that your gradient is 3. If I give another example, let's do this. If I say 2,4 and B is 8,12. So if I write down in the formula, M is equal to 12 minus 4, 8 minus 2. 12 minus 4 is 8. And this will be what? 6. Your gradient will be 4 upon 3. So your gradient, to find the gradient, you should already know that to find gradient, what do you want? Number one, you need two coordinates. You need two coordinates. Number two, you should need equation of line. So when two coordinates are there, you will be using formula. Of what? Using formula of y2 minus y1 upon x2 minus x1. When the equation of line will be given, then obviously we can also find out your gradient. How are we going to find out gradient? To find out that, we need to know how to calculate the equation of line. So as I said, equation of line. First, we will be finding out how to actually calculate or how to actually find out the equation of line. So equation of line, form form of equation of line. Y is equal to mx plus c. Y is equal to mx plus c. Whereas this m is your gradient. M is your gradient. C is y intercept in the graph. हम सिर्फ calculate करते हैं इसे. So C is y intercept in the graph. But to calculate C, y and x are your coordinate. Any one. So that means you need to form an equation of line. You need two things. One is the gradient. To form the equation of line, you need two things. Number one is gradient. Number two is one coordinate. Even if two coordinates are given, use any one of them. If A and B are given, you will be using only one. You can either use A or you will use B. From both the coordinates, you will find out that your equation of line will be same because you have already calculated gradient. So gradient will be defined as what? The same for any line. For any straight line, your gradient will remain same. So that is the reason for any coordinate use, your equation of line will be same. Your equation of line will be same. Now, for suppose, as I said, that you need A is, let's say 2, 4, and B is what? 6, 16. You already found out the gradient using y2 minus y1 upon x2 minus x1 here. Your gradient was what? 3. So let's say your gradient is 3. Now, any one coordinates, let's choose A that is 2, 4. Let's choose A that is 2, 4. So if I say that using y is equal to mx plus c, your m is what? 3. Your m is 3. Now, since I chose 2, 4, your x is 2 and your y is 4. So 4, 3, 2 plus c. Do you agree? Can I say 4 is equal to 6 plus c? Your c should be what? 4 minus 6. Your c is minus 2. Your c is minus 2. Now, since I said your equation of line form was what? Y is equal to mx plus c, right? And you already know that your gradient was what? 3. So you will write down what? 3x minus 2. Leaving x and y as it is. This will be your form of equation of line. Finding equation of line through the other coordinate now. Your equation form is y is equal to mx plus c. Your coordinates were A is 2, 4 and B were what? 6, 16. We already used 2, 4 and we found out the equation of line was y is equal to 3x minus 2. Now, since I know that from A and B, your gradient is what? 3. We found out that gradient is 3, no? 16 minus 4 upon 6 minus 2. This is 12 upon 4. Your gradient becomes what? 3. Now, I'll be choosing what? B now. And B coordinate is 6, what? 16. Using y is equal to mx plus c, y, m will be substituted by 3, x plus c. Now I'll be substituting the coordinate. Your y will be 16 and your x will be 6 plus c. 16, 6 3s is 18 plus what? C. C is equal to 16 minus 18. C becomes what? -2 again. So obviously we are not going to leave it here. So what are we going to do? Y is equal to mx plus c. Since we need to give it in the equation of line formation, we need to give the answer in equation of line formation. So the equation of line formation will be y is equal to m was 3. M was 3. Your x is there. Your c will be what? -2. So this becomes what? Equation of line. If you notice that your equation of line using any coordinate, initially I chose coordinate A, my equation of line was y is equal to 3x minus 2. Now I chose what? B. Equation of line is y is equal to 3x minus 2 again. So let's do a question. Let's continue with it. A straight line passes through what? P minus 8 comma 10, Q 4 comma 1. The coordinate of midpoint of PQ. Now, since the question requires the coordinate of midpoint, so midpoint is equal to what? X1 plus X2 upon 2, comma Y1 plus Y2 upon 2. This is your midpoint formula. And if this is x1, this should be y1. If this is x2, this should be y2. So, can I say -8 plus 4 upon 2, comma 10 plus 1 upon 2. So, midpoint will be -8 plus 4 will be -4. -4 divided by 2 will be -2, comma 10 plus 1 upon 2 will be 11 upon. So if the answer is in fraction which cannot be solved, leave with it. And you need to give your answers here. -2, comma 11 upon 2. Similarly, part 2. The question says equation of PQ. For equation number 1, you need gradient. For equation, you need gradient and any one coordinate. Any one coordinate. So, using P and Q, your gradient formula is y2 minus y1 upon x2 minus x1. M is equal to 1 minus 10 upon 4. Since we already have minus here and the minus is also there in the x, minus will become plus 8. So this should be -9 upon 12. Your gradient should be -3 upon 4. To form equation of line, your form should be y is equal to mx plus c. Your gradient is -3 upon 4x plus c. Now, obviously, to complete the equation of line and to find c, we need to use any one coordinate. I can see that 4, 1 is easier. So let's take 4, comma 1. Your 4 is x and 1 is y. So 1 is equal to -3 upon 4, 4 plus c. Can I cancel this 4 and 4? Can I cancel this 4 and 4? 4, 4 is cancelled. -3 on the other side will become what? +3. So C becomes what? 4. Your equation of line will be y is equal to mx plus what? C. So y is equal to -3 upon 4 x plus 4 becomes the equation of line of P and Q. Question number 5. It says that A is the point 0, 4, B is the point -6, 1, M is the midpoint of the line AB. Find the coordinate M. That means we need midpoint. Your midpoint formula is x1 plus x2 upon 2, y1 plus y2 upon 2. This is your midpoint formula. So this is 0 minus 6 upon 2. Because obviously if this is minus, plus minus will become minus. Whereas 4 plus 1 upon 2. Your y1 is 4. Your y2 is 1. Can I say minus 6 upon 2 comma 5 upon 2, and then minus 6 upon 2 will become what? Minus 3 comma 5 upon 2. So your midpoint is minus 3 and 5 upon 2, using the formula that is x1 plus x2 upon 2 comma y1 plus y2 upon 2. Then the question says equation of the line AB. Now again equation we need what? Gradient, and we need any one point. Your formula for gradient is y2 minus y1 upon x2 minus x1. y2 is 1, y1 is minus 4. Obviously y1 is 4, so the answer will be 1 minus 4. x2 is minus 6 and your x1 is 0, so this should be 0. 1 minus 4 will be minus 3 upon minus 6. Minus minus cancelled out. 3 ones are 3 twos are. Then you have y is equal to what? mx plus c. Your y, m is 1 upon 2x plus c. Obviously, I can use any one coordinate out of these two. So let's use 0, 4. Your x is 0 and y is 4. So y is equal to 1 upon 2, 0 plus c. Anything multiplied by 0 is 0. C becomes what? 4. So your end result for equation of the line formation will be y is equal to 1 upon 2x plus what? 4. So this will be your answer for what? Equation of A and B.